Welcome to another edition of Sunday Night Football with Bengal Jim and Friends. Guys, our 16th episode.
And we haven't been canceled yet.
Yeah, the FCC, whatever.
Yeah.
Haven't been canceled. So, I mean, guys, if you remember, we started this 2 or 3 weeks after our virtual draft day party, which we had several thousand viewers, just overwhelmed us. So we decided to keep doing this damn thing every week, and we've had a blast. We've had, on the 15 previous episodes, man, we've had some really big names in Bengal football history. Ickey Woods, Jeff Blake, Solomon Wilcox, David Fulcher, Jim Breach. We've had all kinds of guys on here. If anybody ever wants to go back, and I know a lot of people didn't catch those early episodes, and you want to go back and watch those episodes, all 15 of the previous episodes are on YouTube. We've got them ordered. We've got them in a file for you there. You can watch any of the episodes, and it won't be too long. We'll get a lot of these up on a podcast as well. You can listen to them in the car as well. So on the screen, my very good friends, obviously James from Brownsburg, Indiana, with his really cool ass Ken Anderson shirt on from the Ken Anderson Alliance and Foundation, and Jamie from up north, somewhere near Mono, Ontario. That doesn't sound like a very fun place, Jamie.
No, it doesn't sound very fun at all. Never heard of that before.
Well, this is your country. You're supposed to. I don't know what high school you went to up there, Jamie, but you got to know the geography a little better.
Yeah, Mono High.
Actually, I don't want you to ever flip it on James and I, because you would come up with some real good cities here in the States, I'm sure. So, hey, we want to say hello to our good friends from Houday Nation on Facebook, like we do every week. These guys are a lot of fun, and more things coming your way. I know we got some more things to discuss with these guys, but again, make sure you subscribe to their Facebook page, just chock full of a bunch of diehard Bengal fans. It's a lot of fun. Follow our page on Twitter and Facebook, and please make sure you subscribe. We're really going to be pushing subscribers and views, if you don't use Facebook a whole lot, towards YouTube here, and we'll tell you why in a second. So just talk a little bit about next week. We're going to flip the schedule up today, and we'll tell you why. But next week we have a guest on. We're still trying to get a player on, and that's likely going to happen. But we're probably going to have an extended session for History 101. We're going to have Cam Miller on from Cam Miller Films. He's a historian. He works for the Reds as well, Reds Hall of Fame. We're going to talk some really detailed stuff about prior to the Cincinnati Bengals in 1968. What did football look like here in the city of Cincinnati? We're going to talk about the 1910 Celts, referred to as a bunch of wild Irishmen for about 10 or 11 years. The 1933 Cincinnati Reds football team. We're going to talk about the 37-38 Cincinnati Bengals. This guy does one hell of a job. Make sure you follow him. Cam Miller Films on Twitter. Cam Miller Films on Facebook, and Cam Miller on Twitter. But we're going to have an extended session on there. And he's the one, if you remember last week, we were looking at some of the statues and stuff outside and around Paul Brown Stadium that he did some concept drawings and renderings of for us. So we're going to have a lot of fun talking Cincinnati football history, not just current Bengals history, but we're going to go back prior to the Cincinnati Bengals in 1968 and see what the football landscape looked like prior to that. Guys, several big announcements tonight, guys. Several big announcements. We're going to announce the winner of this flat AJ Green football. It is not completely flat. When they ship these, just FYI, when they ship these, they're not fully inflated. James was making fun of the flat football.
If you
got a hold of it.
If you want to give Bengal Jim a present, get him a pump that will pump up football, soccer balls, basketballs.
Don't the gas stations down there have the air thing? Is that the Canadian thing, or
he's going to get like 50 of them for Christmas this year? Pump up a football.
Just because you two are angry because you're not eligible for this prize, just stop it. Stop it.
Really quickly before you go on, Jimmy, we got a couple. Just want to acknowledge we got Joe, first time from Toronto.
Does he ask? Hey, Joe, let us know if you know where Mono, Ontario is.
Mono, Ontario, and then we also right below we have Sophia Houday. Hello from Canada. So we're in a little Canadian invasion going on here, guys.
There you go, brother.
Just letting you know. Must be from shouting out all these different cities.
Yeah, we always seem to have a good handful of Canadians on every week. Those are new ones, though. That's good stuff.
They're all Jamie's fan club.
There, hey, Kevin. Kevin is off, obviously from Canada as well. Kevin's been down to see us several times. So we'll announce that winner of that football tonight, right around at 8:30, right before 8:30. So we're going to switch it up a little bit, but right about 8:30, we'll announce the winner of that football, and we'll tell you how we went about coming up with that name. Also, we are giving away cigars, and these are the same exact cigars that Joe Burrow smoked the night of the championship game for LSU. So courtesy of Craig Johnson on the 9th.
Our resident cigar aficionado.
That's right. The Bengal Jim koozie with his cigars there. But these are the exact rolled brand that Joe Burrow was smoking the night of the championship game. We're going to give away 2 of those on the 9-6 show. We're going to have Reggie Williams on that evening as well. But in order to be eligible for that, you're going to have to be subscribing to our YouTube page, and you're going to have to be interacting on YouTube that night. And we'll kind of give you more details as we go, but make sure you subscribe and follow on YouTube. That's how we're going to give that away. And Craig has also agreed to every Sunday he's going to come on with us, and we're going to have cigars with Craig, because he's going to give his cigars away every single time. Every single time the Bengals win, he's giving away cigars. And I guarantee you, he will be sitting on his front porch overlooking the Ohio River with his glass of bourbon and a box of cigars when he gives these away. So Craig Johnson will be giving away this cigar.
The mighty Ohio River on his padded throne in orange and black colors, overlooking the beautiful Ohio River and Paul Brown Stadium.
Yep. So good stuff with Craig. So again, we're going to give away cigars on the 9-6 show, but you got to make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. And then every home game, every week when the Bengals win, Craig is going to come on air with us and give away some cigars. So thanks a lot, Craig Johnson. He's a great dude. I know a lot of you guys have met him down at the tailgate before. Really good dude. And another big thing that we're going to give you what we can today about details of tailgate activities for the home opener. We have been just overwhelmed with request of what's going on. What are we going to do for the tailgate? So guys, we're not going to be irresponsible about this. We're going to do this the right way. So we feel that there's going to be fans in the stands. Don't know the number yet. We're going to probably find out. My guess, total guess, speculation is we're going to probably find out the amount of fans in the stands probably by the end of this week. So if there's going to be fans in the stands, we're going to figure out a way to do this tailgate responsibly. So we are going to do a drive-in style tailgate. Okay. It's going to be a drive-in. We've got a private lot in the shadows of Paul Brown Stadium to be named later. And we're going to have giant spaces marked off where you can park your car. We're going to have our music playing. We're going to do a live remote show, Sunday Night Football with Bengal Jim and Friends that morning, probably 10:30 to 11:30, somewhere around that time. But drive-in style, we're going to have a food truck available for everybody. We're not going to have our buffet of food like we normally do. And for the folks that can't join us at that tailgate, we will do a virtual tailgate as well during our show. So we're going to talk to you. We want to know where you're going to be. We want to know if you're tailgating with friends and family that day. We're going to get you on air. We're going to get people participating and have a virtual tailgate, pretty similar to the setup that we had the night of the draft party, if you remember. Okay. Also, a lot of stuff to talk about here. We have a lot of fans across the country and the world that will participate in that virtual tailgate with us as well. Music, food truck, bring your damn mask. I don't care what political side of the aisle we sit on, because we don't get into politics. But at the end of the day, you'll be assigned a section for your car. If you have to leave it to go somewhere else, we're going to ask you to wear a mask. Stay tuned for more specific details on that. But, also, if you can't make it into the game, come down and tailgate with us. There's going to be limited spots because it's going to fill up, and we're probably going to lock up those spaces pretty quickly. So stay tuned for more announcement on that. But it's a 10-minute walk. So after we're done tailgating, basically we could walk 10 minutes to any bar on the Banks or Midtown or even up in OTR if we wanted to watch the game at one of the bars if we wanted to.
And one of the questions that we've been asked, a lot of people that have been to our tailgate in years prior, you need a specific parking spot to get into that lot. The nice thing about this drive-in style, with it being at a private lot, you don't have to have one of those special passes. You'll be able to park and pay that day, pull in, as Jimmy said, socially distanced. We asked that everybody come in via car, all the same festivities, but a little bit further apart. Jimmy said, we won't have the food buffet, but we will have a food truck. Bring your own favorite drink of choice. But this is actually going to be a unique opportunity where normally, people have to park and then walk over. Here, you'll be able to park, be right here with us in a private lot. And again, stay tuned. It's kind of a fluid situation. We're working on safety. We're working on just dotting the I's, crossing the T's. So more information will be given as we get closer. But it's going to be fun. Again, first and foremost, we want to keep everybody safe, but it's at the same time, it's also going to be fun. September 13th for Joe Burrow's debut at home, Paul Brown Stadium against the Chargers. So just bear with us. We've been getting a lot of people asking questions. We're just saying this now. Stay tuned for more details, and we look forward to seeing everybody in a safe environment, and then cheering on the Bengals, whether it's inside the stadium, at a bar, whatever. Leading up to the game.
Yep. And we're going to have multiple hand sanitizer stations across the tailgate area, the parking lot. The food truck can do pre-orders for us. We're still going to have, we're not going to do the Bloody Mary bars. We're not going to do the food line, the buffets that we normally do for the social distancing aspect. But we're still going to have the Delphis from Del Hall, now with 16 Lot Brewery. So we're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to make this work, and we're going to do it right. More details to come out about it, but I'm telling you, we have our own private lot with quite a few spaces, and we're not going to fill it up completely because of the spacing issue. But once we make those announcements, I'm telling you that we will probably fill that lot up pretty quickly. So just keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, it's fun, guys. There's a lot of people, obviously, who travel from all over to come down to the tailgate. Myself included, we come down. It's going to be fun to hang out virtually with everybody, and this is 2020. This is the way things have to be done.
Yep, that's right. And as we do our show, as we do our show from the
creative and doing something,
Yep. As we do our show from the parking lot, we have some very big guests that are going to be on with us locally and across the world. Huh?
Big prizes.
Yep, prizes we're going to be giving away, and we're going to want you to come on. If you're doing a tailgate at your house or with friends and family in your house, we're going to figure out a way to get you guys on. We're going to do a virtual tailgate. So if you can't physically be there with us, guys, we're going to get you on somehow, some way through the virtual tailgate party through the show as well. So more to come. Just wanted to make that official announcement that we've been working on this thing for many months to do this thing right. And it's changed multiple times the last few months, but I think we're to a point now we could roll out what we just talked about and be okay with that. So, okay. Lineup tonight, a slight change. We're already a little 13 minutes in to the show, but Dan Hoard doing the Reds post game right now. I think he's done at 7, said he could be home a little bit after 8 o'clock or something like that. But Dan will be on with us at 8:30. So we have a solid 30 minutes with Dan. We'll keep him to that 30 minutes. We're going to talk training camp and other Bengals related news. We have some really fun videos to hit on with Dan that I found. We're going to announce the winner of the football, AJ Green football, before Dan comes on. And we're going to start off, guys, with our Bengals History 101. And Tom, Justin, and I have fought back and forth on the order that the top 10 Bengal receivers in history should be. Last week, we talked about the top 5 sack masters. And Tom and I weren't too far off on a lot of these. So, Tom, here's how we'll do it, buddy. So we've got 10 through 1. Your 10, my 10, okay? Right. I'm going to let you get first dibs here, buddy, on all these great Bengals. I mean, the Bengals have had some really significant success with receivers in the history. So there's a lot of good ones on there. To take the top 10 was pretty tough. But I'll give you first shot here, and then once you pick yours, we'll see if I agreed with you or not. Then we'll rotate. I'll go 9 first and vice versa. So, Tom, kick us off on Bengals History 101, the top 10 Bengals receiver in franchise history.
It's a very deep position for the Bengals throughout their history. But number 10, I've got is Chip Myers, Pro Bowler in 1972. He came to the Bengals from one of team Jamie followed really close, the Huntsville Hawks of the Continental Football League. In 1969, he'd been drafted by the 49ers in 67, made the team, got cut in 68, played for Huntsville, ended up with the Bengals in 69. And the Bengals have had a lot of clutch third down receivers, Steve Kreider, TJ, who we'll talk about. But he was really the first Mr. Clutch. In fact, that was his nickname inside the locker room. He was Kenny Anderson's security blanket. from 1971 through 1976 when after Chip left the team. But I've got him as number 10, a Pro Bowler in 1972, and one heck of an athlete and good player.
Yep. So let's see if I agree with you. My pick at number 10, believe it or not, Tom, and we did these picks separately, so no collusion on these picks whatsoever. I also went with Chip Myers at number 10. And, a couple things that stuck out to me as you kind of looking at the criteria that Tom and I were looking at. We were like, do we do based on yards? Look, throw any criteria that we want in there, right? So just because you have a lot of yards doesn't mean you're a great receiver. What was interesting with Chip here, you hit it, Mr. Clutch, the original Mr. Clutch for the Cincinnati Bengals. His yards per reception, over 14 yards per reception, is almost identical to Chad Johnson and A.J. Green, Tom. So this guy was legit, average yards per reception, and he's number 2 on our top 10 list with the number of fumbles that he had in his career, with 1. There's one receiver on this list that did not have a fumble at all, but
he was clutch. He was Ken Anderson's security blanket the first half of the 1970s.
That's right, and you're talking about a different era of football, right? It wasn't a pass-happy league either, right? So these guys in the 70s are not going to have the yardage numbers that you see in these guys in the 80s and after. So number 10, Tom and I agree with. Let's see what happens at number 9 here, Dan. I'll take number 9 here real quick. Number 9, I know Tom and I are not going to fully agree on with Tim McGee, but Tim McGee had a hell of a career with the Bengals. I said, so he had. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my numbers here. He was around top 10 in almost every category when you looked at it. He was number 9 in yards, over 4,700 yards. He was 6th in the number of targets that he had, and he was number 12 in Bengals history with touchdowns. And he was always a great go-to guy for Boomer Esiason. But my pick at number 9 is Tim McGee.
My number 9 is a current Bengal. We kind of amended things, and that's Tyler Boyd. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's young. There's no weakness in his game. He is fast. He runs his routes properly. He's got good hands. He's clutch. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. And like I said, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And with Joe Burrow, I really think the sky's the limit for him. I know a lot of that is potential, but number 9, and I think as the years go on, he's going to crawl up our list.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Tom, I didn't put him in my top 10 list, but everything you said, I agree with you 100%, brother. This guy is legit. If he get another year in Bengals uniform, put those numbers up, he cracks my top 10 easy. Love Tyler Boyd. Great pick. Let's go. Yeah, you're going to start off with our number 9 pick, our number 8 pick here.
Darnay Scott. Through the 90s for Jeff Blake, the deep shot. And for anybody that can remember that 1994 game, he was the guy, what started Blake Mania was Darnay Scott's 2 bombs against the Cowboys. So it took a lot, like Boomer said when he came back. He said, you just can't outthrow the guy. He's just so fast. But, he drew attention away from Carl Pickens. He drew a lot of double teams just because of his speed. So he made the rest of the offense during those high-scoring games that Jeff Blake had. He made a lot of that possible just because of his speed and ability. He got his chance when Carl Pickens got hurt in 1997, right after Boomer had become the starter, to show that he was a number 1 wide receiver. Did it. Had a great second half to 1997. The Bengals came back from a 1-win team, nearly made the playoffs. Unfortunately, broke his leg in training camp a couple years later and never really was the same.
Yeah, so he's number 5 on the list here on the number of targets. I think he's tied for the longest receiving touchdown in Bengals history, an 88-yarder, and he did not fumble one time as a receiver for the Bengals. So he got the ball in his hands. He was securing it. Let's go to the number 7 pick, number 8 pick here. Mine, I don't disagree with Darnay Scott there. I put T.J. Houshmandzadeh at 8. A lot of good things about TJ. Obviously, 112 receptions in 1 year is still a Bengal record. He's number 4 in both catches and targets. Gritty, hard nose. Played with a defensive mentality out there. Loved contact as well. But I put TJ Houshmandzadeh at number 8.
He's a great player. In fact, he's number 7 for me. But
yep.
everything you said is true. He was Carson Palmer's security blanket.
Yep.
Perfect routes, great hands. When it was 3rd and 8, that's where Carson looked, and he was always there. He came a long way after he got drafted with Chad, after being in college with Chad. He had some injury problems his first couple of years. When Marvin came in, Marvin referred to him as China because he was always broken so easily. But got established, got his chance, and made a lot of big catches, and pretty soon was one of the players in the league. When he made the Pro Bowl, he had a great Pro Bowl that year. Probably should have been in the game.
Yep. So I flipped these two. I put in number 7, I put Darnay Scott, and you went with Hushmanzada. Now, Tom, the only reason I loved Hush, man, is probably one of my top 10 favorite players, not just receivers. Loved his mentality. Loved cleaning his shoes with the terrible talent. Pittsburgh, you just got to love this guy, competitor. Man, I don't know if you remember that 2005 season, man, which was a hell of a year for the Bengals. But boy, he had an awful year that year with drops. He dropped over 30 balls, passes thrown to him that year.
Yeah, but then he would work on that.
Mm-hmm.
And became very sure-handed. But Carson always, looked for him. He was a fantastic route runner, is what made him so reliable. And he did have some problems with the drops that year, but he was an incredibly hard worker. Maybe one of the smartest wide receivers the team has ever had.
I agree. Tom, we'll go with you with number 6 here, buddy.
Eddie Brown, the textbook, downtown Eddie Brown. A throw it deep guy. He really, really put fear in defenses back in the 80s. Boomer loved throwing to him deep. He feasted off Boomer's play action, had a lot of big catches over that, particularly the one against the Redskins to end the 1988 season, give the Bengals home field advantage to the playoffs and dance to the Super Bowl. But just an incredible athlete, an all-pro that year, and a very important part of the Bengals' offensive successes in the 80s.
Yeah, he's the real deal. And at number 6 for me, I'm with you. So we had the same. He had Eddie Brown slotted the same. So downtown Eddie Brown, who's number 8 all time in Bengal yardage with over 6,000 receiving yards. So Eddie was the real deal, man. He had some great years with the Bengals, and him and Boomer had a great chemistry together as well.
They really did.
Yep. So we go to number 5. So this may be, a lot of people would have Chris maybe a little bit higher. I'm putting Chris at number 5. Chris, that 81 rookie season was just amazing. He's still, in the Bengals record book, he's number 5 in number of catches, number 5 in yardage, almost 6,700 yards. He's number 7 with touchdowns with 36. The guy had a hell of a career, hell of a hands. The signature over-the-shoulder catch between him and Ken Anderson was just classic. But definitely, in my opinion, one of the top 5 receivers in Bengals history.
Oh, absolutely. The breath of fresh air he brought to the offense in 81 with Lindy Infante helped rejuvenate Kenny Anderson. Smart, great route runner, great hands, could catch the fade, was not afraid to go over the middle. I hate to think Boomer's first couple of years what his completion percentage would have been without Chris Collinsworth, because Boomer could really launch him, and Chris would take that athletic 6'5" body and leap over the middle, get drilled by a cornerback, a linebacker into safety, and hang on for a Bengals first down. But Chris is part of Cincinnati sports culture.
Absolutely.
Bill lives here, owns businesses here, and has part of the second best Sunday night football broadcast on.
That's right. I know a guy. And your number 5 pick is a little different, but you went with Carl Pickens.
Carl Pickens, for the better or worse, he could change a game. He was fast. He was strong. He was athletic. He was very intelligent. He could go up and get the ball. He could out-muscle for a ball. He was a wide receiver that could take a game over by himself, and he did it a lot of times. Ask the Steelers. He did it to them several times. But he left here with a little bit of controversy. He wasn't shy about giving his opinion. Probably wasn't the most popular Bengal of all time inside the locker room, but you couldn't deny his talents and what he could do. He was also a heck of a punt returner. So I've got Carl at number 5.
Yep. Let's go to my 4 pick because I had I'm sorry, this is you right here, Tom. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've already talked about Chris, but I think that looks like maybe his rookie season before he put on 2 pounds before he retired. But yeah, I mean, just everything you could say about Chris, what we said, lives on. Like I said, he's part of Cincinnati sports culture. A lot of big clutch receptions throughout the.
So I went with, my fourth pick. I flipped these guys. I went Carl Pickens, number 4, man. Carl Pickens played on some very, very bad 90s teams, and he put up some ridiculous numbers. I mean, he still holds a team record for 17 touchdowns in one season. He's second behind Chad Johnson with 100 receptions in one season. He's second with touchdowns at 63, tied with A.J. Green. This guy was a stud. And again,
Easton couldn't be stopped.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you remember, there's a game that I posted. They played the Steelers in the mid-late 90s where he single-handedly drove that him and Jeff Blake that last series and won the game against the Steelers. But Carl Pickens was the real deal. And so you and I had them flip, but we're pretty close on these picks right now, Tom. So let's go ahead and go to 3. Number 3, I had Isaac Curtis, man. And I tell you what, I wish this guy would have been able to play in today's NFL because I don't think he might have been one of the best receivers in NFL history if he played in today's environment. I mean, Isaac is number 1 in Bengals history in yards per reception at over 17 yards per reception. Number 1 in games played, 167. Number 3 in yards, number 4 in touchdowns. Isaac just played in the wrong era, but he was a game changer in football. And I'll save it for you, Tom. I know you wanted to hit on that, but we'll move to your number 3 pick because I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
The same.
Yep.
He helped change the game. I mean, it became known as the Isaac Curtis rule. When he was drafted, by the way, he was running back out of San Diego State that Paul Brown knew could play wide receiver. They put him in 1973. The Bengals had a great year. Outplayed everybody, came back strong in the AFC Central and won the division. He was the most exciting player in football immediately. The things he could do with speed, moves, and how he could just carve up a defense. So the Bengals win the AFC Central, have to play the defending Super Bowl champion Dolphins, who would go on to win the Super Bowl again in the first round of the playoffs. And Don Shula was talking to his defensive coaches and they simply said, this guy's too good. Now, Don Shula's got Pro Bowlers all over his defense, Hall of Famers in his secondary. And he said, this guy's too good. There's nothing we can do. So his coaching philosophy for Isaac Curtis that day was, I'm going to put 2 guys on him. And after he races by the first, whoever's the second one, don't let him by you. Just beat the tar out of him. They were holding him. They were hitting him, hoping to not get flags. And because of that, Paul Brown went to the NFL and said, we have to let our stars be our stars in this league, or we're not going to have a league. So from that came the rule that defensive backs could only beat up, bump receivers their first 5 yards between running on the field. And that really ushered in the big era of NFL offenses, which also ushered in incredible popularity for the league. And it's all due to Isaac Curtis.
Yeah, he was the man, just a special talent. And it's funny, just a quick comment about Isaac. So I've been texting, calling Isaac for the past 6 months. He just does not want to come on. He doesn't like talking to media. He doesn't want to. So I'm going to keep trying, guys, because I really do think I would love to have him on to talk to everybody. Just a great individual human being as well. So let's go to our second here. And this is where you and I disagree a little bit, but I think we both have a good reason as to why. But go ahead with your number 2 pick.
A.J. Green. We all have seen when he's not played how critical he is to the Bengals' success. Bengals haven't had a guy come in, do what he did every single year. I mean, 1,000 yards every year his first 7 years in the league. Only 2 other guys have done that in the history of the league. He's special. He's fast. He goes over the middle. He's got great hands. He's a leader. He's a hard worker. And he's anxious to work with Joe Burrow. Just as much as we all love and respect Andy Dalton, a lot of Andy's success was due to this guy right here. And I think, unfortunately, the last couple of years with the injuries, he would probably already be number 1. And I think with a healthy year this year And into the future, he's going to own every Bengal record and clearly be the number one, just not quite yet.
Yep, I got you. So my number two, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but Chad Johnson is my number two in Bengal history, guys. And again, there's a reason behind it because, as Tom said, as you stand today, Chad's probably the number one wide receiver in Bengals history, right? He's number one in yardage, number one in catches, number one in total yards, number one in touchdowns. The guy was legit and a potential Hall of Famer here as well. So I flipped the order of these. So let's go ahead and go to my number one pick, and we'll talk about Chad again here in a second. But, guys, I'm going with A.J. Green as my number one receiver in Bengals history. This guy has played 50 less games than Chad Johnson has, and he is right behind Chad Johnson every one of those categories. I mean, close, with 50 less games. He is number one in yards per game at over 80 yards per game. Number one in Bengals history there, yards per game. I don't think we can go wrong with either one of these guys at one or two. I truly believe by the end of this season, I think A.J. Green surpasses Chad Johnson in every one of those categories. And he has 50 less games than Chad does right now, which is crazy. Don't get me wrong. I love Chad, but I think this guy right here.
I think if you ask me in February, AJ will be number one too. I've said for several years he's the best wide receiver, the best talent overall the franchise has ever had.
Yep. And Tom, your number one was Chad Johnson, obviously, right?
And just because he still has all the records, I mean, so special, best feet of any wide receiver of his era. And
yeah. And you remember the 2006 game in San Diego? He had 260 yards receiving. I mean, the guy's amazing.
Can you imagine if you could put Chad, AJ, and Isaac on the field?
Yeah, I'd pay big money to see that. With Joe Burrow quarterbacking, come on, we'd be good to go.
With me quarterbacking, we'd be good to go with those three guys.
Well, Tom, real quick before we get off, we have Dan in the waiting room. We always tie in Bengals History 101. Great list, Tom. Good job, buddy. I appreciate it. But we always tie in some Bengals memorabilia with the Bengals History segment. So some stuff here. So our number 10, Tom and I's number 10, Chip Myers at number 10 for the Bengals History. An old RC Cola can. Got the whole set of those. And our buddy Chad, autograph Chad pick here. And my man, Isaac Curtis. Back in the old days when you used to buy bottles of Pepsi Cola, they would stick these in these 8-packs. I think they were 8-packs, I think. And you can order a Ken Anderson shirt on the back too. But that was an Isaac Curtis filler for the Pepsi Cola bottle. So those are Bengals memorabilia.
No problem. Hey, Jim, thanks. Say hi to Hoardy for me.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks again, Tom. We appreciate it, buddy.
See you, James.
Sorry, here we go.
All right.
James, you have to unmute yourself, buddy. I can't do it from my end. There we go.
Let's go ahead. I know we're running 3 minutes behind right now, guys. We'll round back to that history segment, but if Dan's in the room, let's go ahead and bring him on.
All right, here we go.
Mr. Hoard, how you doing, buddy?
Gentlemen, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, hey, I know you might be in a bad mood. Red's extra inning, not a happy camper today. We saw the score. I was watching the game. And we're going to be positive today. We're going to talk about some good stuff. So the Reds are turning it around for us, buddy. So,
hey, as I said at the beginning of the show today, the Bengals open the season 3 weeks from today. So who cares about the Reds' loss to the Cardinals? The Joe Burrow era is 21 days away.
The countdown has already begun. We got it down to the hour and seconds right now, Dan. We're good. So we'd like to do a quick introduction for Dan. NFL sportscaster, obviously, for our Cincinnati Bengals. Play-by-play on Bearcats, our Bearcats football and basketball as well. The Ohio Sportscaster of the Year, 2014, 17, and 19. In the University Athletic Hall of Fame in 2019. And I'm going to get this name right, Dan. It's Chautauqua Hall of Fame 2016, I think. Is that close?
That is correct. I grew up in Chautauqua County in the southwest tip of New York State, so I was chosen for their Sports Hall of Fame. I can proudly say I'm the worst athlete in 2 different halls of fame, the UC Athletic Hall of Fame and the Chautauqua County.
That's great. That's great. And then we're also looking at our crystal ball here. When the Bengals pop up their Hall of Fame here, Dan, you're going to be in it probably 2021 or 2022, just to let you know. So we want to get into some training camp discussion and some Bengal discussion. But before we do that, Dan, we have an awful lot of people right now on Facebook and YouTube that are in our chat area. We'll throw some questions at you here in a minute, but there's a couple video clips we wanted to talk about. And the first one we wanted to show you. We wanted to show this quick clip, and we want to have some discussion around it. So, Jamie, if you could play clip number 1, please.
The best of the best in high school basketball playing, I guess, all week and
yeah,
too.
Yeah, and a lot of sports, actually. It's a great time for high school athletics, and it is a huge weekend for the high school playoff action. There's hoops, volleyball, hockey, swimming, and wrestling. But in case you're wondering, tiddlywinks are only contested at the elementary school level. Now we have...
So that clip was from 1993. You were on air with WTVH Channel 5 in Syracuse, New York. And is there some sort of requirement that you have to be from Syracuse to be with the Bengals or something in New York? James?
Dave Lapham, Syracuse grad. Jeff Hobson, Syracuse grad. Emily Parker, Syracuse grad. It is an illustrious list. But if you want to be a sports broadcaster growing up in the United States, Syracuse is the place you want to go to. It has been nicknamed Sportscaster U. The list of prominent sports broadcasters that went to Syracuse is incredible. Marv Albert, Bob Costas, Mike Tirico, Sean McDonough. The list goes on and on and on. So it was a great decision for me. That's why I went there. This is a dream I've had since I was a little kid. So thank heavens it worked out, because I'm not qualified to do anything else.
Well,
hold on, Jimmy. Hold on. You get to always pull out your merchandise. Here's my Jim Boeheim 500 win plaque. Obviously, he's got 1,000. Well, 900, I guess, according to the NCAA. So, fellow, well, not alumni, but I grew up near there, Dan, and a huge Syracuse fan. So, Jimmy always gets to pull out his memorabilia. So, I just had to take 2 seconds and pull out my Syracuse flag.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jim Boeheim was obviously the head coach when I went to school there. And then when I graduated, one of the first jobs that I had was being a kind of a post-game talk show host on the Syracuse radio network. So I would take calls for 90 minutes after the games. And I also hosted Coach Boeheim's weekly radio show. So I got to know him well. We golfed together a couple of times. And one of the first times I ever golfed with Jim Boeheim, we were partners. It was a match, me and him against 2 other guys. So until you've had a bad shot or hit a bad shot and had Jim Boeheim rip you for ruining things for him, you haven't truly seen Jim Boeheim.
That's nice. It's funny, Dan, we found all kinds of videos of you. I thought that was a good one. I mean, just for the simple reason you used to have hair.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, it lasted until I was about 30. So I'm on a good run of like 20 years now without having a bad hair day. Thank heavens that Michael Jordan made it okay for the rest of us to go bald. I truly give him credit for making it okay to be a bald man.
Jamie and I are on the same page with you. We're good. So, but it is crazy, Dan, as I was looking at, on a serious note on that, but all the video clips I found of you and the interviews that you're doing and the broadcasts that you're doing. And I mean, the one thing that stuck out to me, that little simple thing from 1993, you were so smooth. You did almost like a 4, 5, 6 minute segment on high school basketball, was NBA, a lot of hockey that you did. I know you've announced baseball, but the preparation, Dan, that you put into that shows not just in 1993, but it shows today. I mean, you have to put a lot of prep work in this stuff, I would assume.
You do, but when people say that, I worry that it sounds like, we're really working hard and it's some great achievement. My father and my stepfather had real jobs. My dad was an upholsterer. My stepfather was a wholesale florist. They went to work. They grinded every day. Yeah, I put some time in preparing for the games that I get to do, but then I sit close to the 50-yard line and I talk for 3 hours and they pay me. So yeah, it is certainly not grinding away in comparison to people that have real jobs.
Well, Dan, we just do this simple show here we've been doing since earlier this year, since the draft. And the amount of work that goes into this is crazy. I just can't imagine that you're doing this constantly. And you do a hell of a job, buddy. And everybody in Cincinnati, whether you're a Bengals fan, a Bearcats fan, or whatever, Cincinnatians love you, man. We appreciate you. All of us appreciate what you do.
Well, it's nice of you to say. I'll tell you, I am so blessed that fate brought me to Cincinnati, because I didn't grow up in Cincinnati. I grew up in Lakewood, New York, which is south of Buffalo, the very southwest tip of New York State. So I'm actually closer to Cincinnati than New York City. I grew up in a very rural environment. We had 3 acres and 2 barns on our family property when I was growing up. But my then girlfriend, now wife, Peg, got a job in Cincinnati. She was working in Local 12 as a TV news reporter. So I started looking for jobs in Cincinnati, eventually landed one at Fox 19. And, I've now lived in Cincinnati longer than anywhere else I ever lived in my life. So this is home. I hope to spend the rest of my life in Cincinnati. It's a great place to raise our son. So again, I feel very fortunate that fate brought me here.
That's great. So you were here because of your wife. So you definitely married up and outkicked your coverage. Welcome to the
No question. No question about it. Yep.
So Dan, we have another clip we want to show here. So I don't know if everybody that's watching right now, a lot of people don't know this, but Dan was doing something called Hoard Makes the Call. So he was doing random people sending just things they're doing around the house and different things. And Dan would broadcast over them and do a call. And here's an example of Dan doing one of them.
Check out the leg kick. That might be the prettiest left-handed swing since Ken Griffey Jr., and it belongs to Hudson Jameson, who was only 5 years old at the time. Hudson's been practicing his hitting in the basement, and his hard work paid off with his first ever home run at Rabbit Hill Park in Tacoola, Georgia. Remember the name Hudson Jameson, coming to the big leagues in the year 2037.
So you think Hudson's not excited about that, Dan? So talk to us about that. Tell everybody how that came about, and you had a lot of fun with it, I could tell.
I did. So when COVID-19 started, a few sportscasters out there were doing different things to try to entertain people when we had no live sporting events to watch. So I decided the thing that I would do custom-made play-by-play for people. So if you send me your home video of your kid doing something in the backyard or fun with a pet, or it could have been just about anything, I would then get in touch with that person, try to get as many details as I possibly could, and then do a custom-made play-by-play for them. So I don't know exactly how many I did, probably somewhere around 40 or 50, but I did it for more than a month. It was great. My personal favorite was doing play-by-play of a little kid tying his shoe for the first time, which turned out extremely well. He was watching an instructional Sesame Street video at the time as he tied his shoe. Perfect loops, evenly spaced. It was really well done. So that was a lot of fun. And after a while, the videos kind of slowed to a crawl in terms of how many I was getting on a regular basis. So then I figured it had probably kind of lasted as long as it was going to last.
It was great. I remember I did see one. I don't know where I saw it, but I guess mom and dad were going nuts with COVID, and they made a little obstacle course all around the house. So you were doing play-by-play of the kid going through the COVID obstacle course. It was hilarious. Should have put that one up there, but that's good stuff.
Yeah, that was the very first one. So we got off to a great start with the inside the house COVID obstacle course.
Good stuff. So one more short clip, and then we got a bunch of questions in the chat room here. And I've heard this story many times, but there's so many people that haven't. So we have a still picture with an audio.
Springfield, Dan Hoard, Mike Side. Tonight, our Isotopes take on the pesky Shelbyvillians. The Topes are looking to snap that darn 26-game losing streak, longest in professional baseball. How about that? Our sleepy town is in the record book.
So if everybody heard clearly on that, this is the Dance and Homer episode of The Simpsons, and the Simpson family was at the ballpark, and that announcer name was Dan Hoard. Dan, that can't be a coincidence, right?
It is definitely not a coincidence. So the person who wrote the episode is a guy named Ken Levine. Ken is a very accomplished screenwriter and did a lot of sitcoms. He wrote for Cheers. He wrote for MASH. He obviously wrote some episodes of The Simpsons. But beyond that, Ken is a very talented baseball broadcaster, and we spent one summer together in the late 1980s broadcasting minor league baseball games for the Syracuse Chiefs. So at the end of that season, he wrote an episode of The Simpsons, And as a favor to me of sorts, he named the baseball broadcaster in that episode Dan Hoard. And the voice that you heard was Ken's voice. So that was kind of fun, too. But that was back in, I think, 1989, maybe something like that. It was the second year of The Simpsons. So that episode has been on TV and on reruns for a long, long time. And yet, to this day, anytime that pops up in syndication, I will get a text or an email from somebody who says, hey, I don't know if you know this, but I think I just heard your name on The Simpsons. And then I get to explain the whole story of how I wound up on an episode of The Simpsons.
Thanks for sharing that story again. I just crack up every time I hear you tell that story. But it was a pain in the ass. I couldn't get that video because of the copyright on that damn thing. But at least we got the voice on that in a still picture. But that was good stuff. So Dan, thanks for that, buddy. So we have a lot of questions, and I want to start off with talking about training camp and this year's Bengals team. But man, I was down there Friday on the bridge, looking down on practice there, and I don't know if Joe Burrow's going to have a great year or not. But I'll tell you what, he looked really, really good in the scrimmage, Dan, Friday.
Incredible. 5 drives, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. Now, the 2 field goals came in a drill where they started at the opponent's 30, and those were 3 and out. So those were really wins for the defense. But the other 3 drives, starting in his own territory, marched the team right down the field for touchdowns, 2 TD passes to Auden Tate, and a TD run by Samaje Perine. I said to Dave Lapham afterward, we learned Joe Burrow's hand size at the NFL scouting combine. Now we need his jacket size for the gold jacket when he goes into the Hall of Fame in Canton. So I was being slightly facetious, but he was incredibly impressive. Came back to earth a little bit today. The pass rush was good at training camp today, and the secondary I thought was terrific. This was the best day of any in training camp so far for the secondary, but that's the way it's going to be for Joe Burrow. He's not going to dominate every day of training camp, but he has been really, really impressive overall.
Good. So Dan, we're gonna go ahead and go to our chat areas. We have dozens and dozens of questions. Jamie, you can pop up whatever you want there, buddy.
Yeah, we have a lot here. Let's start off with this one. This one should be fun. Brian asks for Dan's best funny lap story.
All right. Well, Two things.
We're going live right now, so be good.
All right, 2 things immediately come to mind. Number 1, there was the post-game show where Jermaine Gresham tried to fight him after something Lapp had said early in the broadcast. It got back to Jermaine, as is often the case with things like this. It was distorted somewhat, so by the time it got to Jermaine, it was far worse than what Lapp actually said. But it's interesting when you're in a post-game locker room doing a live interview and a member of the team comes up and wants to fight. And Lapp, as you might expect, did not back down. So that was kind of interesting. Cooler heads prevailed, and they did not actually get into a brawl. So that was good. Also, in our first year of broadcasting together, I think it was about the 2nd or 3rd game of the season, the Bengals were playing the Baltimore Ravens. I think it was Bernard Pollard. Delivered a cheap shot to one of the Bengals wide receivers, and on the air, Lapp called him a turd for that cheap shot. So I'm not sure I had ever worked with anyone who had used the term turd as an analyst on a sports broadcast. So I was a little bit amused by that. And after the broadcast was finished, I asked Lapp about his use of the word turd. And he told me that in his first season as a Bengals broadcaster, working with the legendary Phil Samp, he also used the word turd. And Phil Samp said to him, Dave, how do you spell that? And Lapp said, well, I think it can be either T-U-R-D or T-E-R-D. So they went to a commercial, and during the commercial break, Phil said to Lapp, it's been nice working with you. And Lapp said, what do you mean? And Phil Samp said, you can't say turd on the radio. And Lapp said, then why did you ask me to spell it? Those are a couple of my favorite Dave Lapham stories.
Nice.
Oh, the ones you can share, too. I can't imagine the ones you can't. Jeez, Pete. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
There's a lot of people kind of asking the variation of this question. So I'll throw this one up, sort of change it up a little bit. With the depth at the wide receiver position, who do you see the Bengals going with on the roster for the for wide receiver?
Yeah, it's hard to say based on how many they wind up keeping. Obviously, you're going to have more flexibility practice squad and the ability to have 6 veterans, regardless of how much experience they have on the practice squad. So potentially, if a veteran guy that wasn't going to be part of the game day active roster or the 53-man roster was somebody they wanted to keep around, they could do that with 6 veterans on the practice squad. Certainly, AJ, Boyd, Higgins, Ross, Tate are guaranteed to be there. And then I think you've got a lot of guys competing for a spot. Mike Thomas has been very impressive. Alex Erickson always comes through when given the chance. So, some of it's going to be based on who stays healthy throughout training camp, but it is a deep and talented group.
Yeah, Alex Erickson had a hell of a day Friday as well, Dan. So, in those situations, a lot of times fighting for that last roster spot at the receiver, you're going to have a guy that if they can be a receiver and special teams player, that might give them the edge in that point, I would think, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's interesting with Mike Thomas and Alex Erickson in that Mike Thomas was a special teams ace for the Rams as a coverage guy. Alex Erickson has been a special teams ace for the Bengals as a return guy. So they both have special teams value, and it'll be up to Darren Simmons if it does come down to those 2 guys or they had to choose one or the other. All right, what's more important for my special teams, a cover guy or a return guy? And they both have value that way.
As we look at this, I think in the offseason, with the craziness going on with the COVID and the limited time the guys have had on the field, the coaches, I think the 2 positions, and we talked about this on Twitter with somebody today. I think the offensive line position and special teams might be the biggest setback because of the limited time of the coaches. I really do think an advantage for the Bengals having Simmons as a special team coach gives us an advantage, I would think, from that perspective. But I think those 2 position groups right there are the ones that are, it's going to show early in the season that they didn't get their work in the offseason, the training camp, the preseason schedule.
You could be right. And I'm glad you brought up Darren Simmons, because when people talk about the Bengals moves in free agency this offseason, and obviously they were extremely active, one of the most active teams in the NFL, maybe the most important free agent of all that they signed was Darren Simmons. His contract was up at the end of last year. I know for a fact that other teams reached out. It seemed like a strong possibility that the Patriots might be interested since they lost their special teams coach, Joe Judge, to become the head coach of the New York Giants. And Bill Belichick spoke very highly of Darren Simmons before the 2 teams played in the regular season last year. So the fact that he was promoted to assistant head coach, I'm sure he got a bump in salary, and the Bengals did everything they could to hold on to him, I thought was a tremendous move, because in my eyes, he is the best special teams coach in the NFL.
Yeah, good. I agree. I love having him. That's for sure.
I want to remind fans to type in the questions if you have one for Dan. Dan, I have a 2-part question. One, we've seen Major League Baseball not allow the opposing road teams announcers to come into the stadium. Basically, they're announcing from a studio. Has the NFL implemented anything like that? And number 2, what's the biggest change you've seen in Zach Taylor and the way he's gone about here in year 2 leading the Bengals?
The NFL has not ruled out the possibility of broadcast crews being able to travel, but I don't think that we are going to travel this year. It just makes sense, quite honestly, to have fewer people on the plane, fewer people around the players, fewer people in the hotel. You are trying to do everything humanly possible to guarantee that your players get to game day without COVID-19 spreading. So because of that, I think it's likely that Lapp and I will be following the model that Major League Baseball teams have done in this abbreviated season, and that is call every game from their home stadium. So I imagine at the home games, we'll be in our booth, and for the road games, we will be in our booth at Paul Brown Stadium. And what was the second question? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We appreciate you being on, Dan. The biggest difference from Zach Taylor year 1 versus year 2, obviously he came in late after the Super Bowl season with the Rams, had to compile his staff, obviously had to go over the roster. We're seeing quite a few changes of players that were here last year that aren't here this year, maybe some with character issues. So what is the biggest difference you've seen from Zach Taylor here in year 2?
I think there's a comfort level that he did not have last year. And I think that's the norm when you become a new head coach in the NFL. It's a hard job. It's a hard sport to coach. There are a lot of moving pieces when you're the head coach. You've got so many responsibilities beyond just coaching the team. And if you look at the NFL last year, there were 8 new head coaches. 5 of them did not win a game in the first 4 weeks, I believe. 7 of the 8 finished the season with losing records. 1 had a winning record. That was Matt LaFleur with the Packers. He had Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers might have had the most good luck of any team in the NFL last year, whereas the Bengals lost all of their close games. The Packers seemed to win all of their close games, and some of that is good luck or bad luck. So I see a comfort level, maybe a little confidence that he didn't have in year 1, and I think we're going to see that pay off on the field during the course of the season.
Yeah. Jamie, let's go to some more questions from the fans.
Of course, here's a great one from Sam. Dan, what advice would you give for a young play-by-play broadcaster? It seems Sam's going into year 3 next month.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's one I get often from aspiring broadcasters. The biggest bit of advice I can give you is to get practical experience. Even though I went to Syracuse, and it's a great school, and I obviously learned a lot in the classroom, the biggest thing that helped me have a career in sports broadcasting was doing it, being on the student radio stations, being on the student TV station. One of the great things about Syracuse is that they have 2 student radio stations and a TV station. So you've got the opportunity to get a lot of hands-on experience. But beyond that, me and my fellow students would sit in the stands with a tape recorder and practice doing games if we didn't happen to be on student radio for that particular game. So anything you can do to get practical experience is the most important way you can prepare to have a career in this business, because you have to do it to develop your own style, to learn what works for you. You can't copy somebody else. You've got to just kind of figure out on your own how you want to do it and how you can do it the best with your own style. So, Sam, get as much practice as you possibly can, and that will help you have a career in this business.
Okay, that's a great question and a great answer, Dan, from one of the best. So a couple things here. So if you could talk about, I've heard you talk about this, over your left shoulder, you have you have something framed. Could you talk about that?
Yes. So that.
Yes.
That is a piece of art that was done by the late, great Sam Weich. Sam tells the story of, I think he was at some sort of cocktail hour or something like that, where he saw Bill Walsh scribble down one of the 49ers plays on a cocktail napkin and hand it to somebody as a gift instead of an autograph. And Sam thought, wow, what a cool way to have a special connection with a fan that's better than just signing my name. So Sam Weich did these plays. It's a series of 150 plays from the Super Bowl teams that he was involved with. So not only the Bengals team that he coached in '88, but also the 49ers in '81. He was on that staff when the 49ers beat the Bengals in Pontiac. So he meticulously drew up 150 different plays, showed all the responsibilities, added notes. So the one that I have is labeled, well, I'm having a hard time reading it over my shoulder, but something like one of the Bengals' core running plays from the 1988 season, and it shows all of the responsibilities, and he has obviously autographed it in the upper left corner. So it's a really cool piece. He did these for charity. I purchased one at Marvin Lewis's golf tournament a few years ago, and it's really one of my cherished possessions. I don't know that it compares to some of the memorabilia that you have, Jim, but it's probably the best piece of memorabilia that I have.
That is cool.
That's a really cool story. I've heard you say that story before, but that's really cool. So Dan, we've got. Are you okay with maybe 3 or 4 more minutes? You good?
Absolutely. Yep. No hurry.
Okay. Good. So we're going to throw a couple more questions on here in a second, but you know Marissa Contepelli.
I do. Where's Jamie's fan club stuff?
Yes. Yes. I told him to put it up. Go ahead.
There it is. Looks good.
Oh, Lord. Hey, Jamie, while you're laughing and drinking your wine there, can you pop up some more questions from the reviewers right now?
He hasn't blocked me on Facebook yet either, so that's good. And Joe asks, is there a particular game or event that you've broadcast that was a favorite of yours or really memorable to you?
There have been many. So when you are a sports broadcaster, if you've been in it for a while, the most common question that you get is, what's the greatest game you ever had the opportunity to broadcast? And in my case, it's actually a University of Cincinnati football game. It was the final game of the regular season in their undefeated 2009 regular season. They went to Pitt. They were trying to wrap up the Big East championship and wrap up a bid in the Sugar Bowl, and they quickly fell behind 21-0 in the first half. Artie Gilliard returned a kickoff for a touchdown just before halftime, and that kind of kept the heart beating. Still, they trailed most of the rest of the game until they finally won it with less than a minute to go on Tony Pike's famous touchdown pass to Armand Binns at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, and they won that game 45-44. So that's number one on my list, but there have obviously been some incredible Bengals wins as well. And if I had to identify a Bengals game that's at the top of my list, it would have been the Christmas Eve game, my second year as the play-by-play announcer, 2012, also at Heinz Field, oddly enough, where they went to Pittsburgh and knocked off the Steelers on Josh Brown's field goal with less than a minute to go. It elevated the Bengals into the playoffs and knocked the hated Steelers out on their home field the day before Christmas. So out of the many memorable Bengals victories I've had the opportunity to call, that one ranks number one so far, but I obviously hope it eventually gets topped in a Super Bowl.
Well, Dan, that's great because I remember both of those calls vividly, and the Armand Binns call, one of my best UC moments ever. But Armand also played for the Bengals for a little while as well, which was
he
cool.
did.
He
did. Yeah, that was back in, I think that was in my first year. I think he was a Bengal in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. And he did pretty well for the Bengals. Had a long touchdown against the Redskins, I recall, and went on to have a decent NFL career. And now Armand is back in Cincinnati working for Luke Fickell and UC. So I see him quite a bit when I go out and see the Bearcats practice.
That's great. So, Jamie, let's go one more question. If you could find one more question.
We're going to put Dan on the spot here. This is something that we've asked pretty much everyone that we've had on the show. Yes. And we're going to ask you for your prediction for the Bengals record for this year.
Well, I'm going to put it this way. My floor for the Bengals is 6 wins. I feel pretty comfortable in thinking they will have 6 or more. And I'm not necessarily going to give a number for my ceiling, but my ceiling is that they make it back to the playoffs, which would be a heck of an accomplishment after winning 2 games last year. But my first year was 2011. They had gone 4-12 the year before. They were widely expected to be the worst team in the NFL going into the 2011 season. Everybody was predicting they were going to have the number 1 pick in the following draft and select Andrew Luck. And what did they do? Win 9 games and go to the playoffs. So there's an extra playoff spot this year. I think there are some very winnable games on the schedule. And let's face it, this year we have no idea what's going to happen around the NFL. If a team has a COVID-19 spread or something along those lines, we hope that doesn't happen, but it could. And this is the most unpredictable season in NFL history. So a 6-win floor and a playoff berth ceiling is where I'm going to predict things for the Bengals this year.
Along those lines, Dan, resident historian Tom Justin has a question. Obviously, with the crazy offseason, no mini camps, off-season training's been crazy, guys working out in their garage. How do you feel the team familiarity, communication is, especially on defense with all the new guys?
Yeah, it's impossible to be as good as it would have been if they had the normal OTAs and mini camps before training camp. It's just impossible, but every team in the NFL is in the same boat. I suppose it might be a little bit more difficult for the Bengals just because of how many new starters they are likely to have on defense. I would anticipate 5 new starters on defense. But then again, you've got a lot of NFL teams that are dealing with new head coaches. And to me, that's far more difficult under these circumstances than having some new players. So if they're gelling as quickly as they possibly can, I feel good about what I've seen on that side of the ball so far at training camp. I mentioned how good the secondary looked today. That was a step forward. They got left work on the. Hopefully they'll be good to go in time for the Chargers at PBS.
Okay, so just a couple quick ones here. I have to ask these, Dan. So the two that I have, and we'll be done after this. What kind of feel? I mean, the media hasn't had the access other than all these Zoom meetings, and you can see people's facial, expressions and that type of thing. But I mean, what kind of feel have you gotten being as close as to anybody to the team? What's been the vibe you've got? Some of the players seem positive. They seem positive. They seem excited. What's the feel you've gotten from the players themselves?
Definitely positive and excited. Joe Burrow has changed a lot. It's not just the fan base. I think he has elevated the feeling in the locker room that this is a team that's going to be in contention soon. If not this year, certainly in the next few. I think that's what these guys are feeling. And, the fact that the Bengals went out and signed 9 unrestricted free agents after adding Mike Daniels, spent the kind of money they spent to get DJ Reader in his prime, Trey Waynes in his prime, Mackenzie Alexander, great veterans like Josh Bynes and Mike Daniels. That sent a message to the locker room that, hey, sure, we've got the number 1 pick, and that's great, and Joe Burrow's got a chance to be a franchise quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years, but we are going to do whatever we can to surround him with talented players. And that has definitely created a level of excitement and energy that, we share as fans, and they definitely share as players.
Got it. So last question, Dan, we'll let you go. We appreciate your time. It means a lot, man.
Thank you.
So talk about this linebacking core. I mean, obviously it was definitely a focus in the offseason, not just in free agency, but the draft itself. So again, I've got to watch 2 practices live from the bridge, and it's probably one of the fastest linebacker groups I've seen in Bengals uniform in a long time. They're really fast. I'm not sure if they necessarily know where they're going yet, but give us your take on the linebacking core and why the Bengals went down this road with this athletic linebacker core they have right now.
Because they had to. In the modern NFL, those guys play such an important role in covering running backs out of the backfield and tight ends. You've got to have linebackers that can run and cover. It's not the Ray Maualuga era anymore, where a 255 to 265 pound guy is standing in the middle of the defense coming downhill and tackling somebody in the run game. You've got to be able to go sideline to sideline and cover people. So 43% of their draft was spent on linebackers. All 3 of these guys can run, and it's probably too soon to say where they stack up. I found it very interesting at practice so far that you never know who's going to be out there with whomever. So at practice today, I think the first 2 guys were Bynes and Pratt, but on other days it's been Bynes and Davis Gaither. It's been Bailey and Wilson. I mean, it's been a very interesting approach to getting ready for the season, in that they've been mixing and matching guys, trying to figure out which pairs work the best under what game situations. Is it a nickel package? Is it first down base? I mean, they're mixing and matching these guys a lot. So I've been impressed by what I've seen so far. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see when we get to game day 3 weeks from now, which 2 guys are out there to begin.
Yeah. Dan, we appreciate everything. You mean a lot to a lot of people in Cincinnati, buddy. So we appreciate your time. Thanks again. We appreciate it.
Hey, it was really my pleasure. You guys are doing a great job. I enjoy watching. I can't always watch live on Sundays, but I find them on YouTube and eventually watch, and it's an awesome show. So thanks for inviting me. Thanks for the great questions, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Dan. Hoo day, buddy. We'll see you.
Hoo day.
Cheers, Hoo day.
All right.
I have to do a Dan Hoard background for next week now.
He knows you're a stalker. I mean,
I'm actually concerned that he knew that.
Marissa Contepelli already warned him if he has a background from.
Oh, goodness. Well, we got that football. We do not want to forget about it.
Yeah, let's
giving that away.
Let's do the football. And so, again, the flat football, but again, you can put air in it. So the AJ Green football that we've had up on our social media pages for the past few weeks. If you remember when we did a drawing for the Ken Anderson jersey, we put everybody's name in a randomizer, name, number, and randomly picked that and showed that live when we did that. This was really hard to do, guys. So here's what we did. So what I did, we had Twitter and Facebook. We had I assigned heads to Twitter and a retweet on Twitter. And I had tails assigned to Facebook follower. So flip the coin earlier today, landed on heads. So it was a Twitter, somebody from Twitter won, and it's a retweet. And it was posted on 8/12. So I did 9 days, a Joe Burrow days away from 8/12, counted the 12th, August 12th, to get us to August 20th. So the first retweet that was done on August 20th was Kyle. Kyle, Twitter handle is right there. You can see that was August 20th. Kyle, it's at Crockhold, Krockhold, wins the AJ Green autographed football.
Oops.
So congratulations, buddy. If you could just send us a direct message through Facebook or Twitter with your address and information, and we'll get that out in the mail to you sometime this week. But congratulations. Thanks for everybody that followed and retweeted and subscribed and reposted and shared on Facebook. A lot of fun. I mean, I had one of two things I was going to give away in this AJ football, which I do not have another one of, but this is a very cool thing for everybody. So congratulations, buddy. Happy you won. So good stuff.
Send us a picture of it fully inflated with yourself. We'll show it on the show. Seriously, appreciate everybody that follows and a lot more prizes to be given away. So stay tuned. We thank Craig for doing the cigars. I think that's going to be a pretty neat deal. I'm sure he'll have them at the first tailgate there for those that will be at our drive-in that we announced. But lots of cool prizes, and stay tuned. And again, we appreciate all the retweets, follows, all that good stuff that all you guys and gals do out there.
And make sure everybody's watching, even if you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We're going to be doing some things on YouTube here soon. So, and then on the September 6th show, I think that's the first Sunday, with Reggie Williams. Craig will be coming on air. We'll give away those cigars as well. But you've got to be on YouTube to be able to do that. So, guys, we have our question of the week. We're running a little bit over, but that's okay because Dan Hoard was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that was great. I'm staying up late tonight anyway to watch the Vegas game. So here we go. Question of the week. What's your Joe Burrow stat line for the year?
Touchdown. You do touchdowns, yards. We don't worry about interceptions because there won't be many of those. So just keep it positive.
Pick stat line, make a prediction. I'm afraid to go to James first because I always go to him first. So I'm now going to go to Jimmy 2 weeks in a row first.
All right. I'm good with that. Dude, I mean, look, the guy is going to have ups and downs as a rookie quarterback, period. He's going to see things and experience things in a lot quicker fashion than he ever has before through the college environment. I was totally blown away Friday being down there for the scrimmage from the bridge, watching him. He was amazing. The offensive line looked adequate. There were times it broke down, but he could extend the play, whereas Andy Dalton, that wasn't a strength of Andy extending the play. He was able to extend 3 or 4 plays Friday that maybe Andy might have thrown away. So he looked amazing. I don't know what his final stat line is going to be, but I think he's going to be a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio guy his first year. He's really smart. He only had 2 bad passes that entire scrimmage, and he threw a lot of balls. And the funny thing about it was after each one of those bad throws, he came back on the next play and made an outstanding throw. So it almost is like his mentality is like, gosh damn it, I made a mistake. I'm going to come back and make up for it. And that's what he did Friday. I don't know what's going to happen throughout the year, but my goodness, I was blown away at the scrimmage Friday for sure.
My turn.
You go, James.
I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm looking at Andy Dalton's stats from his rookie year. Threw approximately 3,400 yards, 20 touchdowns. So, heck, if Andy can throw for 3,400 is his rookie year, I'm going $39,995 for Joe with sounds like a sale price at Kohl's. $39,995
Today only.
995 yards, 25 throwing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns for a total of 30 touchdowns for the Bayou Bengal, now in Bengal stripes. Jamie?
I'm gonna go a little bit different. I'm gonna go with just the win column. Vegas has the Bengals. They're betting that they're not going to get over 5.5 wins. So if you take the over on 5.5 wins, you can win yourself some money. I'm going to be laying down $1,000 bet that the Bengals go over 5.5 wins for the season. So,
and if it doesn't happen, we're going to call Dan Hoard because he gave 6 wins as the.
That's true. And having Dan do that prediction tonight it went from 500 to 1,000 after Dan said that.
Is this loons or American dollars?
Now, this is going to be a bet made from Canada, but it's probably on a server somewhere in some island somewhere in American dollars. So it's American dollars. Yeah.
Just clarifying.
Yeah. 5,000 Canadian.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time. We ask people for their record predictions, and Jimmy, we know you have the perfect record.
16-0, baby.
16-0. I honestly do believe. I mean, obviously 2-14 last year wasn't good, but Dan even mentioned this. Like the Packers had a lot of luck winning those close games. We had so many close games last year. If you go back and look, where just like a stupid penalty or something just didn't go our way, a call didn't go our way, decided that game. There were so many games up there for the taking. That was not a 2-14 team last year. That wasn't the winning team last year, don't get me wrong, but I think we could have won 4 or 5 games last year. So I'm taking the over on 5.5.
I like that bet, brother. So we got a few guesses in here, touchdowns and yards.
Yeah, let's go. We got John says 28 touchdowns, 3,750 yards. Brian reminds us that early Boomer was rough, then it got better, so Joe does get to be human. I think we talked about this pre-show. The Joe Burrow hype train is chugging along real nice right now. But,
a lot of steam already.
I mean, you can even see it in the coverage too, like where he just didn't have a great first half of practice. Like Twitter and the world was going nuts. And then he came out and threw a bunch of touchdowns, and it got better. Optic Blast, 32 touchdowns, 3,900 yards, 13 interceptions from me, I think. All right. Where can I make the same bet? I'm not a gambler, but 5.5 wins. Let's do it. We'll talk offline. I'm not sure.
Well, you know what, though? In Indiana, we've got, I don't know what the app is, DraftKings. So you just cross over the border into Indiana, and you can legally do it. I'm sure there's a lot of other states.
Yeah, the place I'm doing my bet on is Bet365. I'm not sure if it's legal in this. I'm pretty sure it's legal from the States, but Bet365, and I'm also the MGM in Vegas, so you can call in directly and do a bet there. So,
and if you haven't been watching us, as you know, we have gambling problems on the show as well. It looks like.
Bengal Jim, sponsored by DraftKings.
DraftKings or FanDuel sponsorship of the show. Kevin K, 31 total touchdowns. 37, 22, 8 interceptions. A lot of people in that 30 touchdown, in that 35 to 4,000 yard range. Brian says less worried about wins this year, is established an identity. And Lindsay says 9-8 in the playoffs is my prediction. I like that.
Okay, good stuff. I mean, yeah, like you said, the hype train is pretty high right now, but the kid's going to be up and down. Like Friday, he was amazing, and then today defense got him right. So defense has that pride too. You're not going to your defensive players aren't going to let you have a day like that every day. So look, man, I'm excited about this, and I won't name one of the reporters I was talking to Friday at the scrimmage, but it was interesting. A few different reporters were talking about, hey, nobody has bad blood for Andy Dalton. One of the nicest human beings, had a hell of a career here in Cincinnati. But sometimes you do need a quarterback. I don't even know how to say this on air. I don't want to get myself in trouble. But you need a quarterback to get in your face every now and then, and maybe use a few curse words every now and then. You've got that in Joe Burrow. You got that guy in Joe Burrow. That wasn't a Andy Dalton trade at all. Not that that's good or bad. In my opinion, there's times when you need, as a quarterback and a leader, like a Boomer Esiason would, call you out.
You need some swagger,
Right.
Swagger, and that's what Joe. I mean, you just go back to that cigar smoking picture. If you could feel swagger in a photo, the guy's got swagger, and that's something that the Bengals haven't had at the quarterback position for a very long time.
Long time.
Definitely. We saw that last year from Joe. Obviously, what a year he had at LSU. So I think, we have that later again, not slamming Andy, but looking forward, and, the future is bright at quarterback. Let's see, we're only 20 minutes over this week. Holy
yeah. The longest. Well, guys, let me close it out here. So we're back next week, same time, same place. Just we will have Cam Miller Films on talking about Cincinnati football history. We're going to do an extended History 101. Player to be determined. I've got a couple guys we're working on. The following week, we do have Reggie Williams. Congratulations on the football. And I wanted to talk just one more time about the tailgate activities for the home opener. Guys, just stay tuned on social media. Some of the things we're going to do in parking, how we're going to set that up as far as a drive-in style tailgate. We're going to have a food truck. You're going to be able to do pre-orders. You're going to have your section. We're still going to play our music, and we're going to go live from the tailgate. We're going to make it a lot of fun, but we're going to do it and do it right and do it responsibly. Just keep your eyes out on all of our social media platforms with more specifics, hopefully here by this week. Once the Bengals make that final announcement on that, we'll be able to get specifics around that as well. That's it for me, guys. Jamie, anything else you want to say?
Somebody commented on the shirt. Our buddy Ken Anderson at the Ken Anderson Alliance. I purchased this right off their website. You can go there. Obviously, all donations go specifically.
I'll zoom in there.
Oh, there you go. So this is available on the Ken Anderson website. I think it says 81 MVP. We appreciate everyone that's supported that. Also, they have a golf tournament coming up in October. If you're a golfer and want to put a team together, I believe October 12th is the date on that. So mark that calendar again. We have a lot of fun on the show. We're joking around, awesome guests, but we also like to give back. So check out the Ken Anderson Alliance page. Some cool merchandise on there. You can order yourself one of these T-shirts, or I think Brandon, who we saw post something a little bit earlier, had a Bengal Jim T-shirt. So if you want a Bengal Jim T-shirt of the Sunday Night Football show, you can also go to the website, Cook Sporting Goods, who we had on a couple weeks ago, and get a Bengal Jim T-shirt. So other than that, Indy 500 today, being in Indianapolis, was a little unexciting. Ending in yellow. Obviously, it's not May, so it's kind of a whole different situation anyways. But excited about the drive-in tailgate. Again, stay tuned for more details. We'll do it safely. We'll have fun, and then we'll wait for the announcement from the Bengals and see how many people they're going to let into the stadium. Hopefully, those that want to get in to cheer on Joe Burrow and the Bengals will be able to do so. Others can do it safely from where they choose. So look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Yeah, I'm feeling more confident we're going to have a season. I hate being negative. I kind of feel like I felt for a while that we weren't going to play. I don't know if you guys are watching Hard Knocks this year. It's they're covering the 2 LA teams. So they're a couple episodes in. So you get a little bit behind the scenes to see how they're testing. They're testing the players every single day. They only had one positive case. They had one false positive. Rex Ryan's son is a coach on the team there. He had a false positive test. And then news today with the Bears, 15 people tested positive, and it ended up all of them, I believe, were all false positive tests. So everyone was back. So got to see a little bit of a preview of how the NFL is going to handle that when something like that happens. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good that the players are taking it seriously. If you are watching Hard Knocks, you'll see what the teams have done to kind of. Obviously, there's no bubble like the NHL and the NBA, but they've really gone out of their way. The league has to instill in these teams the severity of this and how important it is to make sure everyone's healthy. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, and what's the count? How many days now? I've lost track of days. How many
days? Today? 3 weeks.
3 weeks. So I just really, really hope there's a seat. I really hope that, obviously I think it's going to happen. It's going to start. I just really hope it goes through all the way to the end. The last thing I want to see is, Bengals going 4-0, 5-0, and then we have to stop. I don't want to stop. So fingers crossed.
Yep, with you. Well, guys, real quick, kind of drilling this tailgate discussion, drive-in tailgate, but we're also doing virtual tailgate tied into that as well, guys. So if you can't be down there, we're going to get you involved in a virtual tailgate with us as we go live from the tailgate to begin with. So we're going to have a lot of fun. More to come on that. If somebody asked a question about Bengal bombs during the tailgates, yes, there will be Bengal bombs somehow, one way or the other. We'll figure out how to do that responsibly.
Pre-packaged Bengal bomb.
Yeah, pre-packaged. That we're going to figure that out. Absolutely.
Then please, so I have it in 3 weeks. Yes. It's been a little slow mail coming from the States.
And then Del Hall with his Delphies is going to be there. Maybe some 16-lot brews here and there. Guys, more details to come. We appreciate everybody tuning in today. A lot of fun with Dan Hoard, Tom, Justin with the History 101. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week, and stay safe and hoo-day.
Yeah, everybody.
Hoo-day. Cheers.